For many Arab families, marriage was never just about love. It was structure, stability, identity, and duty. It's a way to preserve our culture and heritage in a very uncertain world. But then life shifts. Migration happens to the new world, and that same marriage is placed inside a culture that speaks a different language. So what happens when two people carry both worlds into one relationship that we call the institution of marriage? Because when tradition meets change, not in theory, but in every aspect of daily life, things has to change. So today, we're going to have this exact conversation by sharing with you guys how we got together 35 years ago. Me, as a woman rooted in tradition, and my Egyptian darling, Dr. Ihab Abderrahim, a man shaped by both heritage and a mere progressive lens. We did not build a partnership, a marriage, a friendship. We actually reshaped it. We are going to share the tension, the growth, the sacrifices, the good times, the sad ones, and what it means to stay connected when the definition of marriage itself evolves as Arab immigrants in the New World. Welcome back to another episode of Chatting with Slava the Jordanian. I'm your host, STJ, and today I'm back with one of my co-hosts, Dr. Ihab Abderrahim. So we thought about, since our anniversary is around the corner, and we've been going through a lot in the 35 years we've been together, to share with you guys some of the challenges and to paint a picture what would people like us coming together from two different worlds. Remember, Ihab was born in Shubra, Cairo, Egypt, and he came to the United States when he was 2 years old. I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia, in the heart of a very conservative culture, which is an Islamic culture, which is a Wahhabism culture in Saudi Arabia. My dad is Palestinian, my mom is Jordanian, but I have discovered lately that my mom's ancestry way back came from Haifa, Palestine. So I am 100% Palestinian by blood. But of course, I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia, and my parents were born in Jordan. I came to the United States over 35 years ago, almost 38 years ago, to go to college. And that's when I met Ihab. I think I was 20, he was 20 and a half. So we were very, very young. Although he's Arab Muslim and I am Arab Muslim, we grew up in a very different environment, and our values and our belief system were somehow different, with our own touches of change. So thank you, Ihab, for coming on today.
Thank you.
So let's start with you as a Egyptian Muslim. Your parents immigrated to the United States in 1970. The Arab male definition of marriage is different than the female definition of marriage. How would you define marriage as an institution? And do you actually believe in the concept of marriage? Because, just to remind the audience, you're the one who called off the wedding for so many reasons, has nothing to do with me, which we will get into.
Sure. So, the institution of marriage for me is probably different than most Arab men from the Arabian countries or North Africa. I just thought that, if I want to marry somebody, it's not going to be arranged. It would be somebody I meet, and it would be my free will to choose the person. And I think that drove my parents crazy at the time, because they're trying to arrange things for me, and I knew most of the people they were trying to arrange my marriage with, but I didn't know them very, like I knew them as friends of the family. So, so I just decided not to really pursue that. And I said to myself, I'll find, at some points I'll find somebody. And, and I think it was like, I think we met the second year of college. I'm trying to remember now, second or third. Maybe
So it was my
year.
first year. It was your second year or the third year? It's 1989.
Yeah. 86. Yeah, I started in 86. So yeah, the third year. It was my third year. So I met you in my third year.
Okay, so as a reminder, let's just, before we go further into the conversation, because I just want to make sure that the audience and our listeners get especially if you guys are newcomer to our channel and to our podcast, I have escaped 3 arranged marriages in Saudi Arabia. 2 were members of a royal family of the Saudi Arabia, and the third one, he was the heir to the Procter & Gamble company in Saudi. So he wasn't a royal family, but he was from very, very affluent family on the west coast of Hijaz in Saudi Arabia. So, let's talk about why you're against arranged marriage, because as a reminder, forced marriage is different than arranged marriage. So why were you against like 2 families coming together and bringing 2 people together in the hope that they can consummate the marriage and be happy and live, happily ever after?
So for me, the people that we knew that were friends of ours, I just considered them friends. I never thought that it can go further than that. And I understand the arranged versus, forced. Nothing was forced at all. It's just that, my concept back then, I think now arranged marriages, I learned more about it as I grew older. I understand it more now, but back then I thought back then an arranged marriage kind of was forced, but not really. It was more like, you don't get to know the person and you kind of meet them a couple times and then you're going to get married or engaged, right? And then you get married. So I wanted to get to know somebody, but what I know now is, I believe, if I have this correct, is when they do arrange a marriage, they do get to know each other. A really good, reason why I kind of learned this, I watched my cousin's daughter. She was engaged. Well, she knew the person and the gentleman, and I'm not going to name any names or anything like that, but she knew the gentleman, and they just got engaged. I want to say this last December, 25, and I saw them together prior to the engagement. I saw them together after the engagement. So it was a really neat thing. Now, I don't think they were definitely not, they met in school, but, what I believe is, again, that was not arranged, but kind of arranged. So the family still had to kind of agree and things like that. But I watched it kind of happen, and I understood that even if something's arranged, they do get to know each other for quite a while. In my mind back then, back in, the mid 80s, whatever, even before that, whatever I learned from my family, it was more of like, you just meet the person once or twice and that's it. That's kind of how I learned about it. But maybe the more current progressive, what's going on now, at least in Egypt, it's these youngsters are getting to know each other for a good amount of time, which is helpful, because if you don't have that, if you don't have a connection, it just doesn't make sense that, to get married. So again, it's arranged, but really not arranged. I understand what you're saying. So that's kind of my thoughts on it.
I agree with you. There's a stigma against arranged marriages, but it's not as simple as, walking down the street, picking a guy and say, do you want to marry my daughter? And the girl, the girl has no say. There's some communities, they do that, which is very extreme, is frowned upon right now. Before, the whole arranged marriages concept started because of all the tribal connection, right? So if you would have my son marry your son marry my daughter, then the tribe will never go to war. And that's not only with the Arabs or the Islamic culture, it's across the world back then. So it is a whole different time when you talk about arranged marriage. Today, arranged marriage is really simply matchmakers, right? You're just bringing the two people together. Hopefully, they have so much in common that they decide they want to spend the rest of their lives together. So your concept of arranged marriage being here in the United States, I think it was influenced by the Western stereotyping of arranged marriage. It's forced. You have no say. You have to live with that person for the rest of your life. There's no divorce. It's because the family will benefit. It has nothing to do with your happiness, which is completely not true. And that's why I want to do episodes like that to really champion the stigma of our culture forcing people to be together, whether they like it or not, because so the family can benefit. Yeah, back in the day, that is true. Bring the two family wealth together. It was a business endeavor, was an investment amongst the two tribes, but also because tribes were constantly fighting, and there was so many civil wars and rivalry, around the world. Hoping the marriage is like, hey, if you're gonna fight with me, you are fighting your son's wife's family. If you're going to fight with me, you're going to be fighting, your daughter's husband's family. And they will think twice about invading or raiding or stealing or any of that. So, yeah, there are, a certain arrangement that happens between the two families, these days. But honestly, that concept does not exist as much as people think, because the young couples right now, they are in control and they are in charge of their life, their family, and their marriage. But let's go back to, do you think the people or the people that you grew up with in non-Arab community or neighbors or friends made you fear the concept of arranged marriage, or was it just you? Where did you build that rejection of like, I don't want an arranged marriage, that doesn't sound right?
No, it wasn't. I don't think it was anybody I knew that really kind of biased me in any way. It's just, I don't think my parents explained it really well. I believe, I think they, from what I used to kind of, watch, people that were, that met were between families, and, this is my daughter, this is my son. You get them together. And again, here's the thing. This is the thing about arranged marriages. When we say arranged marriages, this is what I believe, is that there are two families that know each other. It's not like two random families that just kind of bumped into each other. There's no, why would you arrange a marriage of two families that bump into each other? Unless Correct. The kids know each other through school, right? Through school. I don't consider that arranged, right? So two people met in school, like my cousin's daughter, and, so they met in school. That's different. I don't consider that arranged, but in the background, it's still the families. It's like I would call it maybe like a post-arranged marriage. I would say that the kids knew each other in school, and the families had to get together in the background and get to know each other. Versus, here's the thing, versus the ones that we knew when I was here in New Jersey, it was my family knew another family. They had a daughter. And that was the arrangement there, right? There was, I didn't, I maybe met this person a couple of times or something when we went over their house. But other than that, the person I met or the people I met were just conversation for a couple of hours and, just general stuff. And we'd leave, and it didn't pass through my head in any way that there's something going on. But
Yeah, when two people come together and they decide to get married, there is still the element of the family overseeing the whole process, right? It's
That was us.
managed by both
Yeah.
families, right? Because we didn't know each other. Your niece and her fiance, they knew each other on their own independently of the family. So they brought both families together. But now their relationship, their, when to get married, where to live, like what's my daughter's rights, my son's right, what my son is going to do for my, what your son's going to do for my daughter, how my daughter's going to be as a wife, that's managed by overseen and supervised by both families, because there are still parameters this young couple performance towards the family as husband and wife, as a mother and father, as the professional, they're both a pharmacist, graduate from the same school, and in their duty and their identity and the stability, the structure of their home. It has to pass quality control by both families, or through both families. So they found each other, where the arranged marriage when you say arranged, it means they did not find each other. It was arranged by both families. That can be a little bit more, not restricted, but more structured, because then the families start the whole idea, the couple take it on. If they decide, like, okay, yeah, we like each other, then still get supervised by the families until they get married. Even after you get married, like the way they raise their kids, where they're going to live, what they're going to do with their career, who's going to support so and so, who's going to provide for so and so, so the family is still very, very much involved. Perfect movie. Speaking of movies, because we like movies, perfect movie to really describe that is My Big Fat Greek Wedding. It's exactly what the Arab families, it's all about. It's not arranged marriage. They will throw a lot of, recommendation. If the girl doesn't want to marry, she finds her own. The family is still involved. So, what's your belief? So two people find each other. They found so much in common. They fall in love. They want to be partners in life. Do you think they should get married? Because at some point you called off our wedding. Can you share with the audience why you called off our wedding?
No, I didn't call off the wedding. No. That's not true. What I did was I was calling
according to
off
your dad, you did.
Yeah. Or no, I didn't call off the wedding. I called off the reception. It was different, right? The reception. We were already married, right? So it was just the reception that was costing my dad a lot of money. That has nothing to do with, so we were already married. All we were doing, we're having a reception for people. And to be honest with you, I'm going to be very honest about receptions. I think they're just it's not worth anything. It's a waste of money. And the reason why I say that is I know you get memories, but it's only 3 hours of memories versus a lifetime of memories with your partner, right? There's a difference. I mean, it's great. You get to dress up, you meet people. And when I was at the wedding, again, our wedding, our us meeting was more organic, right? Through school, just like my niece, right? That was organic, right? So we developed a lot before we even got to the point where we're getting married. We were engaged. We had time. We got to know each other. And then that one reception is that I didn't call off the wedding. I just called off the reception. I didn't call off anything. I believe that, I know a lot of people love weddings and they love to do that, but my dad was the one that was paying for it, and I didn't think he really should have paid for it. And, but he wanted to. So it's not like, again, when he said I called it off, I didn't call it off. I didn't want him to go through the financial, and it was very financially difficult for him, to be honest, really. And
so you said, do you mean that because financially you wanted to give your dad a break, or is it you don't believe in spending, regardless, you don't believe in spending that kind of money on a party for 3 hours. You want to focus on the sentimental part of it. We're married. Move on. Let's just start our lives.
Yeah. So here's a great, for instance, right? Let's say my dad was wealthy and he wanted to do it. I would be okay with it. It's fine to do it. I don't mind. It's the reception part. For me, it's a give or like, it's fine. We can do it. It's just, who's it going to benefit? Who's going to be happy from it? And a lot of people that are involved in the wedding, families, friends, they're the ones that really enjoy the wedding. I believe, in my opinion, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like how much like my mom really loved the wedding. So it's a very big feeling for her because I'm her only child getting married. So she loved that reception. I think the most of all of her and my
grandmother, Nina Daulat. You are the only son to her eldest child. That was huge.
Yep. So those two, like I said, I was mentioning her just now. Those two, my mom and my grandmother, huge for them, huge. And when my dad said, don't worry about the money and stuff like that, he'll deal with it. I understood, it was not an obligation for him. I don't want to call it an obligation, but he wanted to make my mom happy and my grandmother happy. And I think it made him happy in a way.
Your dad,
it was
your dad was very
dutiful
thing
for my dad.
Yeah, he was very responsible, dedicated family man, and he wanted to get that done.
Yeah. So my mom and my grandma, when it happened, my mom and grandma were like super excited. Even my cousin too from Maryland, she was super excited for me, But other than that, it was just like, even my cousin, my dad's cousin, he was, he just came, it wasn't like anything. I'm sure he enjoyed it, but, it wasn't like, whoa, this is something big. I think again, my mom and grandma just were really, it was a big thing for them. Big.
It was huge. Once my dad told me, it's okay, whatever. I didn't want to disappoint them. My grandma and my mom, because to them, I know my mom called me about it and we talked and she goes, it's okay. I'm like, all right, that's fine. We can do it. And she was like, yeah, Slava's ready to go. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. Let's go. But that's all you needed to hear. Again, Slava's ready to go.
Yeah. Ready to go.
So let me ask you this. If we had a daughter, would you talk her out of having a wedding?
So here's my thing about that. If I had a daughter, and here's the wild thing. Now people are spending $50,000-$100,000 for a wedding, right? I would tell my daughter, hey, listen, I'd rather give you this $100,000 for a house, right? A down payment for a house. I'd pay a down payment to a house. And then we'd have something small, like a nice, reception, not reception. I say like a nice party, close family, the two, both, our family and her family. And that's it. There's no need to have, spend all that money. I really think.
Funny you said that because that's exactly what my dad told me. He said, why are you guys spending all this money? Just take the money, buy a house. And I said, well, Ihab's the only child and his grandmother Nina Daulat came from Egypt. It's not that simple, Dad, because, my dad was very practical, like that. So
all the other weddings of your brothers and sisters were just like small, like your brothers and sisters didn't have, if I remember correctly, it was just maybe if we were there, it was us, them, and whoever family was involved. That was it. It wasn't like a party with 100 people, 200 people. It was maybe like 10, 15 people.
Yeah, it was honestly just for the bride to have her moment, put on the dress and dance and eat and just celebrate, really. It's more like a celebration, but that's my family dynamic kind of culture. So let me ask you this. I did not grow up in the U.S. You being an Arab, growing up around the Arab community with your parents, how traditional your parents are, being an immigrant here in the United States, in like I said, growing in that environment, did it shape your view about marriage? First of all, do you consider yourself as a Arab American immigrant?
Yes.
Okay. Do you consider yourself as a Arab American immigrant as much as your dad did?
As he believed in himself, like being an Arab American immigrant, or what do you?
Yes.
I think he's more the concept of like being an American for him was like bigger, right? Like because he came from Egypt and he came here for like a new life and stuff like that. I was already living here, so I mean I would consider myself more American, right? With Arab roots background with my family, so, and I grew up here. So, I consider he's more Arab American. If you say it the other way, American Arab, maybe would be the way to say it for me. But yeah, even though I came when I was 2, it's hard for me to say I was an immigrant. Like I came because my parents came. Like I didn't, there's a lot of people we've met that have come here for school and came on their own. And so it's a very different, that they immigrated on their own. So my dad is the one that came on his own with my mom. So I came along for the ride, right? So I was
so
there.
When your dad talked to you about marriage, what did he say? Like what are the words that he chose, and the belief, and what kind of belief system did he play upon to explain to you, now you are in high school, hopefully one day you're going to get married, go to college. How did he put it? Like, because when you explain that concept from the lens of being not even just, an Arab immigrant here in the United States, and talking to somebody like you who grew up here as the first generation immigrant, not first generation American immigrant, but first generation immigrant, how did you perceive that? Like what did the communication look like?
So my dad never spoke about it, really. That wasn't him. It was my
mom. Your mom did.
Not my dad. No, my dad really didn't my dad was completely not involved in anything like that. He never spoke about it. He never taught me about it. He never really discussed it, except, just here and there maybe. But my mom was the one that was really the one that was probably the driving force of whatever she was trying to do for me to get married, me to meet somebody that she knew. My dad knew them too. It wasn't like she knew the family. My dad didn't know them. It was both of them knew them. But my mom was like, I'd call her the matchmaker. My dad had nothing to do with it. He had zero to do with it.
She was a matchmaker for everybody. Forget about
she did it. Yeah, she did it for all the women, even she'd know some men from families, young men, and she'd know the parents, and she would match them up with somebody else. So,
except you.
Yeah,
no, actually, she did have a big hand in why we ended up together, but that's a whole different episode. I think we mentioned it in a couple of episodes. So let me ask you this. Yeah, she was. She's the one who implanted the idea of proposing to me. Remember?
Yeah, that's what we talked. Yeah, we definitely talked about that in the last couple episodes.
Well, she was under the impression you had no interest at all.
Yeah.
Did you tell her that?
Initially, I might have. I don't remember. I think I did initially. Yeah.
It's been that long, Ihab? It's been that long.
It's been a long time. Man, I don't remember what I ate yesterday, to be honest with you. I literally don't even remember our wedding, like, except that, no, I didn't eat. That was one thing I remember.
Don't say that publicly like that. That's sad.
Do you remember that? I mean, you remember, you have a good memory, but my memory's not that good.
Of course
I just remember not eating. I just remember not eating. That's all.
You've been
which is
saying this for
irritating. But
35 years.
I hated that part of it. I hated it. And it's funny as my dad paid for it and I didn't even get to eat there. You know, it was everybody else at the party got to eat. And that's another thing about the weddings is if you don't take care of the bride and groom, you know, eating, like we sat there and they brought food to us, which was like appetizers, things like that. But when the main food came, everybody got their food. We were still sitting there because people kept on coming up to talk to us. So we couldn't get up to get our meal because it was, I think it was a buffet, if I remember correctly. So, but yeah, I mean, if it was, that's another
check.
thing.
Wedding is not about you. It's about the guest and about the bride.
Right. That's what I said. That's what I said.
But that, ladies and gentlemen, that's Ihab's relationship with food. It was more important than actually the wedding. So let's move on because we can go on and on and on down the rabbit hole. So let's talk about our marriage. I just want to get your insight. I'm not going to go too deep, Ihab. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Insight of when the two Arab, you know, people come together, because you would agree that you are a moderate progressive and I am a moderate traditionalist, right? So I'm kind of in the center and you kind of in the center. So you're progressive, but you're not that extreme progressive. So where do you think that our tension, because, you know, we just knew each other we knew each other for 2 years through mutual friends and my brothers, but actually intimately we had the time to sit down and go out to dinner and talk about life and really dig deep into our belief systems and our value, comparing notes and so forth. And then we got engaged after that. So where do you see the tension showed up mostly when you found out that I am more a traditionalist than you are? You know, a girl growing up in Saudi Arabia, like I said,
I didn't think there
was taught through
I didn't think there was tension.
of very, not tension in a sense that like we're fighting, but where did you find out? It's like, ooh, I need to work on that, or oh, that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. There's a huge difference between us.
I'm pretty go with the flow person, so I didn't have anything like that, to be honest with you.
Luckily.
Yeah, no, I really didn't. I still don't have things now. Like just in my life normally, I don't really have any, like, I got to have it this way. I got to have it, you know, it's kind of, I try to move along and not really be a stickler for things in life. So, it was the same way back then. I didn't really have any, you know, I knew who you were. I knew you were traditional. I kind of got your mom also. She was very protective of you. Your brothers were very protective. I get it. You know, you were the oldest daughter, right? Oldest sister. So I didn't really, you know, even Sad would tell you I wasn't really anywhere like one direction or another, or had an issue with traditionalism. I don't have any issue with any traditionalism in general for anybody. So I think people should be free to do what they want. I just think that whether you're a traditionalist or a progressive person, both have to kind of meet in some middle ground, right? Somebody's got to give a little, right? Because if somebody takes a little bit, somebody's got to give a little. It's got to go both ways. So I wasn't really had an issue with you being a traditionalist person. So, you know.
So when you decided to propose, did you play upon the desire to be married or the duty to be married, or, you know, it's this Slava is the person that you felt attraction and you can see yourself building a future with?
That's the one. Yes.
Okay. So neither duty exactly, or desire?
No, like this. You mean desire for what? Wedding? Like getting married? No,
desire,
I didn't have a
desire to get married and build a life, and she's going to be my partner.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, duty? No, I don't think there's a duty towards it. I didn't have a duty of any kind.
Okay, that's interesting.
I mean,
okay.
Desire goes with the last part you were talking about there. So I mean, it kind of goes together. Desire, spending your life with somebody. I think that's kind of the same thing, I believe. So,
were you worried that I'm going to have a really hard time adjusting, because, I was just in the United States, I don't know how many years. Yeah, I've been visiting the United States since I was 7 years old, but I'm going to be living in the United States. The U.S. is going to be my country. I'm going to be a U.S. citizen. Were you worried about how is she going to adjust, the difficulties that I'm going to have
no.
with the challenges?
No.
No? Why is that?
No.
I would be worried
because
if I were you.
Nope. I wasn't worried because remember, we knew each other for 2 years. So there was, again, remember, we got to know each other. That is the difference, I think. So if somebody came, like a family from Egypt or something, and my parents got me, together with that person, and they're from Egypt specifically, and this girl grew up in Egypt, I would think that person would have a tougher time adjusting to the United States. But like you said, you've been here since you were 7. And we've known each other for 2 years prior to getting married. So I don't see why there would be an issue. I knew what you wanted, and I knew who you were by that point. So there was no like weird things coming up or anything like that. I didn't see anything come up in my opinion that was gonna really put the brakes on anything. I didn't see that.
No, I agree with you. I wasn't worried. I never really I didn't lose sleep over the fact that, I have to acclimate, acculturate with the U.S. because, like I said, I've been visiting the United States since I was 7, but that's a whole different. I was coming here vacationing and having fun, and everything is paid
but
for.
You went to school here.
I'm building up. Yeah, I'm building up a family. Marriage. I mean, marriage to me was part of my blueprint. We grow up. It's different when you guys are here. Yes, some of the Arab families, some Arab communities try to get you conditioned for it's inevitable. It's going to happen. You got to start thinking about it. You got to take it seriously. Back home, it's like that times 100. You know what I'm saying? Just it's really engraved in our psyche. That's the last thing you're going to do. Get married and be happy. Get married, be happy. But I agree with you. I wasn't really worried about, I was more worried about like how I'm going to navigate through marriage because, the challenges that I saw with my parents' marriage as a couple. And I knew that there's certain things I did not want to repeat. There's certain things that certain mistakes I didn't want to master. I learned from mistake. I don't want to do this. I want to do that. I'm going to do things differently. But it was, I think, very helpful that you had meeting your parents. You had the Arab culture, upbringing, meeting your parents, but also at the same time you're more Americanized. That made me feel so comfortable. It's like, okay, he's have the best of both worlds. How do you think we navigated through marriage with our power struggle? Because we are both we're both very strong personalities. And I'm very extroverted, task-oriented, people-oriented, and you're very, in certain situations, you're a scientist, you're very extroverted, task-oriented, but also you're introverted, task-oriented as a scientist. So it can be, you exude that kind of power getting stuff done and you're result-oriented. How do you, just for sharing with our audience, how do you think we navigate that power in our marriage?
I just think I have to let go of some things. You'd have to let go. So we have to kind of agree on certain things. I mean, obviously we're going to disagree on things. I'm sure it's happened in the past with us, but, that disagreement, whatever it might be, agreeing is great that we're done, right? We agree on something, but if we disagree on something, we have to come to some kind of a conclusion where we're both happy in some way. So, that's the way I see it. I don't think there's again, like I said, there's always a middle ground for everything. There's not, even though you might have a very strong opinion of something, I think you kind of would migrate to the middle to meet me on certain issues. And I'm trying to remember what would be something was.
Well, I
I can't
mean,
think of
we talk about a lot about very much more into very much more spiritual, for example, and you're not so much spiritual. You do believe, but you're more science, fact, logic oriented. I am more, like I said, spiritual. Meditation, being in stillness.
I don't know if you got spiritual. Did you get? I'll say your spiritualness came later in life. It wasn't when we were young.
Well, I was always spiritual, but I feel now I am more because I am slowing down. I agree with you 100%. I always, you probably don't agree with me, disagree with slowing down, but in my inside is slowing down, not my outside. My outside is crazy. But also what happened to me is, I don't know if you remember, 2023, after your father passed away, Allah yarhamu yahsin ilayh, may he rest in peace, that shocked my core. Losing him, I don't think I ever got over it. And losing him felt like my world, which is the stability of my ground, actually split. And I feel like I fell through. Because your dad, I'm going to get emotional. Your dad was my anchor. I loved your mom. Your mom is my best friend. Yeah, and Ihab, I miss her so much every single day. Losing her was horrific and very traumatic, and such a tragedy to me and for me. But I think because your dad was still there, and your dad, for me as a moderate traditionalist, that was the father figure. I lost my dad in 2014, so he was still there. He was okay. My dad is still here. My dad's still here. My roots are still here. When we lost him, and the way we lost him too, that made me really sad. I literally felt my world, which is the solid ground that steadies me, just split in half, and I fell through. So I was in free fall from 2022 until 2025 when 2024, when we went to Egypt. When we went to Egypt, it's almost like going back to Egypt and walking through his footsteps of his life, seeing the apartment in Shubra, going to Gruppi, his like favorite cafe that he used to hang out there after work, walking the streets of Shubra, walking the streets of Cairo, meeting your family, meeting his brother, Uncle Salah, Allah yasaido, that he sounds like him, he talks like him, and he looks like him, just brought that back, kind of, that everything is going to be okay. And since that trip, when I came back, I really wanted to, manifest my spirituality by going back to and actually practicing spirituality in a much stronger way and very public way, the way I am. But I always been spiritual. I always, been still in touch with that, but it wasn't like a background noise. Now it was behind me. Now it's really in front of me right now since I lost your dad. I hope that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. I have a different like whole framework on loss and stuff like that, because I look at it as, I wish that everybody could live forever, but it doesn't ever happen like that. And
scientifically,
and I'm glad it's impossible. And then the way we remember our parents and our family members that we lose is just through memories, right? So we just gotta remember the things that were good. We have photos, which is nice now. Back in the day, there was no cameras like 400 something years ago, but now you have photos, you can look at them and remember them. You videotape them, you can hear their voice and watch them. But I'm a more practical person on that scale of like death when it comes to that and family. And I don't look at it as a way of really breaking me inside or anything like that. I look at it as like they had a good life. My dad had a long life. Obviously we all wish he could have lived longer, but that kind of thing is, in my mind is hard for me to really like say it, like it crushed me in some way or something like that. Is because again, like you said, I'm practical, and I don't look at death as like it's like an end to everything. I think that there's something probably after this. I don't know. That's where I kind of, it becomes hazy for me. But
and it's not to me. I agree with you. It's not an end of anything. To me, it's a loss of presence. So when I wanted to, I still do it. I wonder what Ihab or Ihab Allah yarhamhum will think about what's going on, what just happened to me today. I want to grab the phone and pick up the phone and call Ihab, but she's not there. I'm saying so. Becoming more or taking my spirituality to the next level helps me get in touch with them spiritually. I'm saying? Because I know that physically and presence wise, they're not here. They are present in a very different form. So spirituality, and I don't know when it starts. I think it was the calling when I went and the calling when I was in Egypt, when I went and prayed for the first time in 38 years in al masjid, in the mosque of Amr ibn al-As mosque. That was it. I just I just traveled back in time, and I realized that I was missing that feeling of connectiveness in such a holy place. And I really, really felt the closest I ever felt to your parents in that mosque. Because when you go, I went and I prayed extra for them. And that's what you do when you have a family, a deceased family members, and you just pray for their, for their soul. So when that happened, that just was a jolt to my spirituality. And I remember saying to myself, like, oh my God, I didn't realize how much I missed this kind of feeling. And I need to hold on to that feeling, because that God is telling me that this is the closest you will ever get to them again, by the praying and be in the stillness and the presence of their spirit, basically. So, through prayer and I coming back, I get busy here with life. Of course, being in the United States, it's not the same. When you're praying by yourself, but when you pray jama'ah in the mosque, you hear the adhan and you pray jama'ah with everybody side by side. There's a sense of solidarity in spirituality. And I brought that back with me. And I think that was the turning point for me. But what do you when you look at this, I know you saw your parents practicing all that, but when you look at my transformation or my rekindling of my spirituality, what's going through your head?
For me, I'm happy that you want to go through that. It's not something I like. I'm not, I'm very neutral towards it, so I don't like get involved in that. I mean, I'm like I always say, like I said that about my parents. They're very religious. They really were. Both of them prayed 5 times a day. I would not take that away from them because they're very happy. That made them very content inside. But for me, I don't have anything that has any, in my mind, that is against it at all. Like I'm happy that you're happy. I'm happy that they were happy. So what I always say about any person in religion, as long as they don't hurt anybody, and it's for themselves, and they're making themselves happy inside, it's great. I hope the best for everybody that's like that, and I hope they find something meaningful in that. And there's again, like for you, I think that you find something meaningful, obviously, from what you were saying and what I'm seeing here. So I think that meaningfulness is very important to you, which is important to me. So I kind of I don't, again, like I'm a very neutral person when it comes to religion. I don't have again, again, like I said, I'm very neutral to all religions. So as long as people are happy in them and they're not hurting anybody, you can be whatever religion you want and pray as much as you want and be as pious as you want. So, yeah.
So my last question is, what do you think? I wish I can actually stand where you stand when we have a conflict, aka a fight, or do we disagreement when we disagree with each other. Do you see that my Arab,
100%.
traditional? I didn't finish that question.
I don't even. Yeah, you don't have to finish it. I know the question is. Go ahead, finish the question.
Do you see the Arab in me comes out, or you see the Slava in me comes out, or both?
What do you mean the Slavic? The Slavic use the Arab as well. It's both.
I have Slava, my identity. I know you cannot separate Slava from being an Arab, but it's just the Slava as a person.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think that when you say something, it's like I think that's like there's an Arab almost stubbornness to it. I don't want to even like call it stubborn, but it's like you're very like you're very adamant about something, and I see that point of view as a little too harsh, maybe, and there are certain times I can't even soften that point of view. It's hard to, so
don't even try.
I would have to, I would have to like bend to it and just kind of like move with it. But there are times I would have to say something and I would say it, and you might like it, you might not, and that's the way it is for me. I would have to, I would always have to give you my point of view. Sometimes you don't like it, and I've seen it in the past. You don't like my point of view on certain things, and I get it, but that's my point of view. So it's the same when you have a point of view. I have to understand it too.
Well, because the way I see it, like I'm talking to an American, like when it comes to just too practical, it's more than practicality. It needs to be both. But you being a person, Ihab, Abdurrahim, that grew up here in the United States, but also Ihab as a person, very analytical, very, like I said, logical. Yeah. You come across with both, and just add that being an American, I was like, "Ooh, we're right here. He's right here. I'm right here. I'm trying to like
I'll give you a great example. I'll give you a great example. This is a funny one. Like when you're cleaning, it is wild to watch it. It's wild. Like you should. I wish I could videotape you on how you clean. It's the Arab in you. It's the Slava in you, and it's your family in you, that you will clean something over and over again, day after day, the same spots, because like a little particle of dirt hit the ground. So they'll vacuum the whole place over. And it's like,
butt up, butt up.
I know. I get it. Do whatever you want. I don't care. But don't involve me. That's the thing. You get like this, you involve me in it. Like, it's like, I'm the person not doing something. I'm like, I'm not doing it because it's been done like 4 times this week. You don't have to keep doing it. But to you, it's inside you that you need that cleanliness around you, even though it's clean. But that's okay.
Your dad liked it. Your mom liked it.
I see that. See what I'm saying? I get it, but I'm not going to get involved in it to clean every few hours. I'm not going to do it. You can keep saying it to me, but I'm not going to do it. So there's a point like where I end I get it. Once a week we clean the place. We did it. But 30 minutes later or hour later, you might see something happen, or you see something on the ground. You'll get the vacuum and vacuum it up again. And then, maybe later on that night, you'll see something, you'll vacuum it up again. It's like, but that's okay. That's something that you do. It's fine. It's
all I got to say, my mama and your mama will be so proud of me.
They would be. See, look how proud you are of yourself, of the cleaning. I'm proud of you too, that you clean all the time. But, I just think that
I
the
love you for
cleanliness
that.
thing,
I
like,
love you. That's what makes you so special.
clean all day, all night.
You're awesome.
Clean,
Yeah.
clean. Right? Remember that song?
Yeah, and I did work in a daycare, and I was a full-time nanny, so that song is always in my head.
I can't believe
Clean.
I don't even know how you worked in a daycare wiping these kids' butts. Like, you get disgusted by everything.
No, but they're so precious, and I have to keep them clean. So
I know.
it's the reward after the reward that they
I
feel
swear to
so
God, if you could wipe a kid down with a Clorox wipe, you would, to keep them really clean.
I would. Totally.
But
especially being in dentistry for 27 years, cross-contamination, what I've seen.
Yes.
Anyways, but here we are. So thank you for that, though. Thank you for the validation and empowerment and keeping up with me.
Of cleaning.
And I'm a really good cook, too. And I clean after myself, by the way.
Yeah. No, the food is great. Yeah.
But no, seriously, I believe that marriage is all about translation between cultures. You know, I mean, we are the perfect couple that we do have a lot in common, but we grew up very different. So we almost like brought to this marriage two different cultures, two different point of views. So the two cultures, different expectations, different versions of our self. Because, you know, you grew up in a certain way, I grew up in a certain way, but when we got together, I think we redefined our identity together. Like, me with your parents are different me than when I'm with Ihab. You are with me, you're different than when you're with your parents, or different when you are with your friends. And you see it now with, you know, going back to your family in Egypt. Me with your family in Egypt, completely different than you with your family in Egypt, and different than me. So it is, you know, it's fascinating how you grow up, and every 5 years, everybody changes too. But do you agree with that? Do you agree with that statement?
What, the statement?
That when you get married, you bring in the two cultures together, and
of course. Yes. Yeah.
You know, and you learn different tools to translate your identity. You translate the language, your body language, how you express yourself, how do you explain yourself, how you justify my cleanliness and my OCD being clean.
Yeah.
You know, so, but that's marriage. That's what marriage is all about. So we have reached the end of our hour. Do you have any advice for Arab young couple here in the United States? Should they get married or should they not get married?
I mean, get married, definitely, if you want. But the most important thing between the couples is flexibility. I think that's the one word I would say that needs to be there in the marriage. If there's no flexibility, there's going to be a problem, big time.
Yeah, and give each other.
If neither person is going to be flexible, or if one person is more flexible than the other, then that person is being taken advantage of, I think. You know,
absolutely,
in a way.
But that's the way in every relationship, right, Ihab? I mean, we get challenged all the time, even at work, not being, you know, some team members not being flexible, and you know how that always ends up. So we have reached the end of our hour. As a reminder, these episodes are uploaded weekly on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube by the Mindset Mastery Moments. So if you have enjoyed this, please like, share, and hit that notification bell. That way you won't miss any episode, and it is for free. Remember, this episode or this series is sponsored by humanity and supported by Everyday's People Stories. So please find us, join us, support us, and as always, be kind. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Hope to see you next time. This is Slava the Jordanian.